sterile robes to everyone. When the last bow was tied, another assistant pushed back the door. "This way, gentlemen." It was a tight fit. The 12 members of the State Medical Board, 4 other observing surgeons, and of course the press, with their marginal manners, all had to wedge themselves into the room as best they could, taking care to leave sufficient space for Brinkley's staff and for the man on the table, whom the doctor now introduced. "This is Mr. X," he said. There were mumbled hellos. Mr. X, identified as a 55-year-old mail carrier, smiled but did not speak. At a nod from her husband, Mrs. Brinkley, wearing spectacles and a trapezoidal cap, came forward and gave the patient a local anesthetic, injecting him twice just below the waistline. Other aides toyed with the umbrella frame lighting system overhead, tilting and focusing each bulb till the doctor was satisfied. Then an orderly brought up the goat from the basement. Why the goat was being kept downstairs was never explained. Ordinarily, they resided in pens outside in the fresh air. Even now, the baaing of others could be heard through the open window. No matter. What counted was that this particular goat, a 3 to 4 week old male, was Mr. X's personal choice. The trembling animal was placed, hoofs clattering, on a side table. Then Mrs. Brinkley drew a chair up close to it and sat. Her fingertips, freshly dipped in antiseptic, played in a tray of shining instruments. A nurse stood by with a nest of gauze. While the orderly held the goat's head, the doctor's wife brushed part of its underbelly with mercurochrome. Then she picked up a small pair of scissors. Someone down the hall heard the bleating of the goat ringing through the corridors. The nurse held out her hands, and Mrs. Brinkley deposited the testicles, one by one, onto the gauze. As the doctor donned rubber gloves, the glands were transferred to a stainless steel tray and placed beside him. The patient lay lightly strapped down, a wet towel on his forehead. Dr. Brinkley inspected each gland closely, then raised his mask and set to work. No one who was at the institution for this unusual display of a surgical performance went away doubting that Brinkley has nerve, reported the Kansas City Journal-Post. Aside from Brinkley himself, those closest to the table were Doctors Nesselrode, Edgerton, Orr, and Carr, the 4 official spectators charged with making a scientific report on what they saw. Dr. Brinkley, however, took care that everyone had a clear view, standing back from time to time to explain another step of the so-called 4-phase compound operation. Dr. Hassig, who also took precise notes, saw the doctor first make twin incisions in the patient's scrotum, slitting it and injecting each way through a blunt needle about 2 cc's of 0.5% mercurochrome, after which a fresh goat testis was implanted on each side and then sutured to the loose tissue. The procedure was supposed to take 10 minutes. At 15, the spectators began to exchange glances. Dr. Brinkley abandoned explanations and bent more closely to his work. 20 minutes. 30. Although he betrayed no alarm, more than one of those watching felt that first touch of dread at the temples, a faraway fear that the patient might... Should someone intervene? Doubtless sensing the uneasiness, the doctor paused briefly to lower his mask and give a smile of reassurance. Then he returned to his labors. A full 45 minutes passed before he drew the last catgut stitch and stepped back. Assisted by a nurse, Mr. X sat up dizzily, swung his legs over the side, pitched a bit to the right, but was caught and steadied. He took a few breaths. Then he slid off the table and, with a drunkard's dignity, exited the room. Dr. Brinkley took off his mask. While pronouncing the operation a success, he spoke candidly about the unexpected complications. He suggested, without quite saying so, that they had been a lucky thing, allowing him to demonstrate skills and resourcefulness that might otherwise have gone untested. "If any of you gentlemen have patients that you feel need attention of this kind," he concluded suavely, "we will be glad to handle them here." The members of the Kansas State Medical Board thanked him and took their leave, repairing en masse to the Barfell House in nearby Junction City for lunch. 48 hours later, they unanimously revoked his license to